Welcome to the Entertainment IR Hub within Agoracom. My name is Al O'Grady and I'm joined by Mr. David Spark. David is a veteran tech journalist and founder of Spark Media Solutions, a firm that helps companies build their industry voice through storytelling and social media. His technology report, the Spark Minute, can be heard every day on Green 960 and 910 KNEW in San Francisco. David, thanks very much for joining us.
Great to be here.
Okay, David, obviously we're here talking about entertainment and itty-bitty and also social media, and that's what your focus is today. I guess my first question is just how significant is social media right now, and more importantly, where is it going?
Well, it's a general catch-all. I'll try to answer it as simply as possible. Is what social media is very powerful at doing is growing relationships and growing connections. And traditional advertising is all about impressions. You buy to have access. You know, a television network will tell you on a certain show you can reach 20,000 people if you give us an ad, and that'll be, the impressions. And that cost always stays the same. It never changes. And you just got to hope that these impressions will convert into sales. With social media, you can build relations and build connections. And with each relationship that you build, the cost of an impression actually decreases. And not only that, the value of a relation is much higher than an impression, because an impression is just an image where a relation is a conversation. And when you have that kind of an impact, when you have conversational impact, relationship impact, your ability to sell through, sell up, get word of mouth is much higher. And then the cost for additional impressions, which really you should be thinking of more engagement, because impression is such a sort of a minimal term in the social media sphere. It's like the last thing you want. And but the cost of getting one decreases dramatically as you build a relation. So everyone I've seen who is engaged in social media and committed to it, that's a key thing, has actually decreased the cost of impressions over time and increased their relationships.
Okay, my next question, I think you're leading right into it. I was going to ask you about what would be the key ingredient, not just for a social media campaign, but for an effective social media campaign. It sounds like impressions and value per impressions. Is that really the case?
The effective, well, I would say the number one component for effective social media campaign is commitment. So you can't, just talking to a couple ad agencies today, and they had a hard time committing to a social media campaign which can go on for years, essentially, or as long as the lifetime of the company, which would be ideal. But most companies think of ad campaigns that run 2, 4, 6 weeks at a time.
Right.
It is not your decision to turn off the switch of a social media campaign. So commitment is number one. You have to be willing to engage. Also be willing to respond. When people like, don't like, whatever, be willing to respond and engage. People really appreciate your open honesty of communications, and they appreciate you creating communications, creating content. This sort of, you put a message up and it doesn't get responded, or it doesn't get responded in a month, that's not a good way. So it's immediacy, it's openness, it's willingness. There are time and time again examples, and I've been an example of myself, where someone who was initially negative was converted, and that's a very powerful thing when you can convert someone, and that's really the power of a social media campaign, okay, which you can't do with advertising necessarily.
Yeah, right. Now you and I are both old enough to remember back in the 70s and the 80s, social media was probably the cell phone, fax machines, email.
Well, really, cell phone wasn't around in the 70s.
Well, okay, I take that one back. They were in the 80s. Remember, those really huge things.
Yeah.
But now we have, of course, internet, Facebook, Twitter. I guess the thing is, how do you know if this really has staying power or if it's flavor of the month? Your thoughts?
I was asked this question before about will Twitter survive?
Right.
And my feeling is to ask the question of will Twitter survive is like asking will the cell phone survive? The cell phone afforded us a form of communications that we never had before. Now we're able to do things that we couldn't do before. Be reachable anywhere, access information anywhere, call anybody anywhere, that kind of thing. Twitter offers similar kinds of communications capabilities. So to say that Twitter is a fad, it'll go away, the only way it's going to go away is if something replaces it that it improves upon the communication. Twitter is not perfect by any means, so there's definitely room for someone to replace it for something better. But that kind of communications, which is known as microblogging, is going to say same thing with Facebook. The reason that MySpace fell apart and it's falling apart, and I called this a long time ago, I'm not a fan of MySpace at all, is that they didn't choose to keep continually engaging with the demands of the audience. And so MySpace got superseded by Facebook and will be superseded by other networks, like Twitter and other social networks as well. The only way it will become a fad is if you do not satisfy the needs and demands of the audience.
Okay, let's move on. The reason that you're here, because of entertainment, full disclosure, also an Agoracom client, and of course Entertainment's pet project, Itty Bitty.
Right.
Give us your thoughts on Itty Bitty and how this all fits into the social media family, if you will.
Yeah, so I'm very happy that Entertainment Media brought me out here to speak. Itty Bitty is a pretty cool product, I must say, because it combines the desire of what people want is communications tools. You look at all the Web 2.0 mail applications like Yahoo Mail, Gmail, and Hotmail. They all ride on a relationship with the customer. We'll give this for you give this to you for free, but in return, you're going to let us track you, and we'll serve up ads contextual to your content. Everyone I speak to, do you know that they do this? Yeah, I know that they do this. Do you care? No, I don't really care. The same relationship, Itty Bitty, and it's also a communicator tool, but even a more powerful communicator tool. So the idea is, we'll give you this free communicator tool, you let us track your behavior online. But unlike a similar tool, which would be Skype, it's very, very similar to Skype, not the same thing, it's not using the same network, but it affords the same capabilities, which is voice, video, and text communications. You now have this content-driven experience. So a person who has an association with the brand will now see this brand on a daily basis, every time they turn on the computer, assuming they turn it on every day.
Right.
And that brand can bubble up to a full screen experience or just be an icon, but they will always see it. It'll be an ever-present thing, and they'll want to keep it because, like Skype, like an instant messenger tool which people keep on their desktop all the time, it's affording them a capability. And the one capability that really gives them the edge, that I think is really pushing them over the edge, is the fact that it's branded content and serving up ads. The brands can now let people make free phone calls to landlines and cell phones, which Skype, even though it's great, can't do that.
Right. Now, I just get the impression, you were talking earlier, we were talking about you're talking about impressions and getting value and trying to get that social media, and just marrying this all together with Itty Bitty, they kind of bring it all together, don't they? And that really enhances that whole social media experience. Really, in my view, it's synergies. 1 + 1 = 3.
Right. Well, it's one of those things where you have to set up the playground and see how the audience takes to it. It's like you can't force your hand too much. The real benefit of social media is when the audience takes hold of it. So my feeling with Itty Bitty is, like with all social media, you put it out there, you see how they react to it, and then you adapt. And what's cool about Itty Bitty is that their complete, their front end can change on an instant. Like any Web 2.0 application, they can change their application too. It doesn't require you to reinstall, re-download, every time you want a slight change in it.
Right.
So if they find out their audience prefers to do one aspect of the interface other than another, that can be changed like that. So there is the integration, but right now it's not clear how they're going to use it fully. Right now, I know from the early tests they've been playing with the soft phone, essentially the VoIP phone, the Skype-like aspect of it. But how will that integrate with the content? How they'll use it? Will they watch live events and chat simultaneously? I think they will. They're going to have to learn over time how best to adapt the application. But they've got the framework and the skeleton currently, and it's just a matter of time and testing and getting it out there and getting user feedback, which is what social media is all about, and improving the product.
David, that's it as far as my formal questions are concerned. I'll leave you with the last word. Any final thoughts that you'd like to make about either Itty Bitty, entertainment in general, or social media?
My feeling is the trend of social media is going to essentially supersede the need for just generic marketing, and that the idea of the banner ad is going to become a content widget, and people are going to stop putting banner ads and they're going to be put content. So you will see, while you'll see advertising out there, it's going to push to more content because companies are going to build their brands and build their relationships. Itty Bitty is one tool that can definitely do it, and as they're seeing with NBC, Itty Bitty is part of a larger solution for NBC because they want to be in every sort of visible place that consumers are.
Okay, on that note, David, I want to thank you very much for your time and joining us here on the Entertainment IR Hub with Agoracom.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right. And for Entertainment Media and for Agoracom Investor Relations, I'm Al O'Grady. Thanks for joining us.